So you're trying to figure out if moving you and your family up to Kuna, Idaho is the right move for you. Well, in this video, I'm hopefully gonna help you decide exactly that. I'm gonna share with you some of the best parts about living in Kuna, and I'm also gonna share with you some of the worst parts. Kuna is a grossly underrated suburb here in the Boise, Idaho area, so you're gonna wanna see this one. What's up guys, I'm Chase Dolan, your Boise realtor, and in this video, it's gonna be all about Kuna, Idaho. I'm gonna give you a complete and honest breakdown of what it's like to actually live in Kuna, show you some of those pros and show you some of those cons, so that as you're making that decision for you and your family, hopefully you can take some of these and figure out how they fit into your own priority list. And hopping right in, one of the things that draws people to Kuna, so pro number one, is that it is going to be on the smaller side of a suburb when we're looking at the big cities here in our area, but you're going to be in extremely close proximity to some of those big cities and their amenities like Boise and Meridian. Kuna has a population of just under 30,000 people, so it's going to be roughly the same size as Eagle on the other side of the valley, but it's going to have a very different feel than Eagle does. When we're talking about the proximity to Meridian and to Boise, you can get from downtown Kuna into South Meridian within about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on traffic on Meridian Road. And then to get into Boise, to get into the airport, you're gonna be looking at around a 20 to 30 minute drive, depending on the route and the time of day you take it. Whereas if you're looking at some of the outskirts towns, some of the ones that will have some of the same feelings as Kuna, a little bit more rural, that small town Idaho vibe, you're gonna be a little bit more separated from that nexus of the Treasure Valley and all of the great stuff that it has to offer. And on that same thread, the second pro when it comes to the size of the town and where it's located, Kuna is going to be, again, that smaller city. With that population compared to Meridian, for example, that's around 120,000 people, Boise up around 240,000. Kuna is going to allow you to avoid that quote unquote big city life, all of the hustle and bustle and the growth and the busyness. But it might be a good balance if you're looking at Middleton, you're looking at Star, around 10 to 15,000 people, and you're like, okay, those are just too small. I don't want complete small town Idaho. I want to kind of find something in the center. But like always, with every pro, there's a corresponding con. So with this being a little bit of a smaller city, you're going to find that you're just not going to have the extensive amenities that you're going to find in some of the Boise, Meridian, Nampa areas of town. Kuna itself has seen a pretty large growth though in the restaurants, the grocery, the retail, everything that's available to you inside of the city, even from just 10 years ago when I first came up here. But when you're comparing it to Meridian, for example, you are just going to have a fraction of the options of places to go, things to see. You're going to be able to try so much more new food. You're going to have grocery stores, total plethora of them. Whereas Kuna is basically gonna have one main street that goes down. You're gonna find a Tractor Supply, you're gonna find a couple of grocery stores. There are some great restaurants in Kuna, but for the most part, people that I know that live out in Kuna, they do traverse themselves up towards Meridian on a pretty regular basis to get to some of those amenities that they just don't have in town. But again, that is part of the pro of Kuna is you are within shouting distance of all of those. So if you're willing to make a 10 to 15 drive to go out to dinner, this might be a really good fit because then you don't have to deal with having all of that stuff right in your backyard every single day. One of these amenities though that I want to highlight in particular that you are just not going to have totally widespread in Kuna, and this is our second con, is the medical care and just kind of the lack of medical options in Kuna is something that you have to know. If you are somebody who needs any sort of specialized medical care, maybe you're getting up there in age and you need access to medical care, you need elderly facilities, maybe you wanna check out an ear, nose, and throat doctor, you wanna go to a dermatologist, some sort of more specialized care, Kuna itself is not gonna have those options. As of right now, they really only have one primary care, kind of urgent care facility, but everything else that you're gonna need, you're gonna be shooting up towards Meridian, which is about 20 to 25 minutes away. So you're not gonna be completely stranded. If you're somebody that needs doctor's appointments on a regular basis, this could turn into a bit of annoyance having to traverse 30 minutes each way consistently. And continuing this same thread, in Kuna, with it being a little bit of a smaller town, you aren't going to have the amenities, you're not going to have the big shopping centers, you're not going to have big downtown with all of these jobs and services there, you're not going to have the medical facilities. All of this, one of the big things that this does is there are not a ton of jobs inside of Kuna themselves. So it is very common that people live in Kuna, but they traverse and they commute to go to work in Nampa, they go to Meridian, Boise. Just like every city in our valley, those are really where a lot of the jobs are, so people are used to commuting to them. But if you're somebody that's wanting to move as close to your job and to your work as possible, Kuna's gonna be a little bit tough because you are gonna have to go through rush hour and get into one of those bigger areas, which is gonna give you a commute that you just have to account for. But again, I wanna touch on where it is in the valley and the proximity. Even with Nampa, if you kind of shoot down southern Nampa and shoot your way up, you can get to Nampa and most of the jobs there, Meridian and most of the jobs, and downtown Boise within about 30 minutes, which is pretty good for the rural vibe that you're getting for living in Kuna. And before we hop back on to the positive side of living in Kuna, I do want to remind you I am a local agent up here in the area. So if you have any questions at all about Boise, Kuna, making the move up here, whatever it is, all of my information is down below. I would love to find a way to help. And if you're liking this video, you're learning something, hit that subscribe button down below. That way you are the first to know everything you need to know about living up here in the Boise, Idaho area. But even as I talk about all of the negatives, the things that are missing in Kuna, this is all balanced out by a huge pro about living in Kuna, and it is just the relative affordability when we're looking at housing in Kuna compared to some of these other cities. As of filming this video, on the whole, when we're looking at everything in Kuna, the median home price that you should expect is in that mid 400,000s. Whereas if you just go up to Meridian, its neighboring city, you're gonna find that median home price is gonna be floating in that mid 500,000s. So it's a total oversimplification of choosing where you wanna live. But when you're thinking about Kuna versus Meridian, are you willing to drive 20 minutes to get to the things that you absolutely want to have in your life and save $100,000 on your home? For some people where budget is their main concern, that is gonna be a resounding yes. And that's the people that we find are really happy out in Kuna. And when we're looking at real estate in Kuna, we are seeing a ton of really cool opportunities popping up. One of which I wanna highlight is Valor. I've done a full video on this on my channel, so go ahead and look at it. But Valor is gonna be a golf course, resort style community, all sorts of amenities. It's gonna have some gorgeous homes. There is gonna be a 55 and older component of it, Trilogy, but this is truly gonna be a really cool master plan community once is all said and done, kind of surrounding Falcon Crest Golf Course. And as you're driving around Nampa, you're looking on Zillow, you're gonna notice that there are a ton of new construction developments popping up kind of on the outskirts. And this is going into our next con, is the growth in Kuna is coming from Meridian, and we're seeing that pick up big time. There is a massive area of undeveloped land from Kuna going north before you get into South Meridian. And over the last few years, we have just seen that gap start to shrink. And frankly, it's only gonna continue. So if you're gonna decide on Kuna being the place for you and your family, just know that you're gonna have to be ready for some of those growing pains that we're seeing in the cities around. But whenever I see growth like this between two cities, one of the things that I want you to consider if you're looking at Kuna is over the next 5 to 10 years, with that growth, we are gonna see more amenities get dragged down towards Kuna. We're gonna see the medical facilities. We're gonna see grocery, retail. We're gonna see restaurants. Everything's gonna get a little bit closer, but also as the population grows, we're probably gonna end up with more streetlights. Traffic from Kuna to Meridian itself is gonna take a lot longer. So the example that I would use here is from downtown Kuna to get to the village at Meridian. I would estimate you're looking at around a 20 to 25 minute drive, but fast forward 5-10 years and you have some of those opportunities where you don't have to go into the village halfway down right on that border of Kuna and Meridian. The proximity to those is gonna be a lot closer, but your drive to the village might increase by 10 to 15 minutes depending on the traffic. And this is a very common problem that we see with people as they're choosing where they wanna live in our valley. It's all a trade-off. Do you want to be ahead of the development, kind of wait for it to all come to you, have a little bit lower home cost right now, have a little bit more of that small town vibe for the foreseeable future? Or do you want to be in a place like North Meridian that development has already happened, you have access to all of the convenience and the amenities that you could possibly want, and that's a call that only you can make. Now, let me try and sell you though on why Kuna is a great place to live. And a big portion of this is the community and the things to do that they have inside of the town itself. One of the things that makes Idaho special on the whole is in the entire country, our state has the highest percentage of public recreational land available. This means that those outdoor activities like riding your razor, getting on a dirt bike, maybe you want to go out shooting, you want to go hunting, you're going to have a lot of opportunities and places that you can go for this. And if you're living in Kuna, you've got access to a ton of that BLM land towards the south. You're also gonna have a really cool nature preserve, the Snake River Birds of Prey, which is definitely a very niche topic, but everybody that's gone out absolutely loves it. And getting back into town, you're gonna have a lot of those small town community events like Kuna Days that happens every single year. And then you're just gonna have some really cool things like Indian Creek that runs right through downtown. There's gonna be a small little green belt, a little park. You're gonna have small downtown Kuna, a cute little main street. But out of all of this, Kuna is a place that I absolutely love driving through, because around Kuna, in town, just outside of town, you have got some of the most serene and beautiful views of the Owyhee Mountains to the south, and then just a ton of green farmland still out there so that you really can see along the horizon. It can be absolutely gorgeous, and it gives you that sense of separation that some people just really crave. But before we wrap up, that does lead me into our final con. With these views, with the farmland, the undeveloped nature, Kuna itself is extremely flat. The topography down here, you're not gonna have the foothills, you're not gonna have anything like that. It is an extremely flat area of town. And this means that you are gonna have wind ripping through on a pretty regular basis. Our entire Treasure Valley gets some pretty crazy wind because of the way that we're in the valley. But on the northern edge of town, we just see that it gets broken up a little bit more by the foothills, by the different elevations, and just by the sheer amount of development it's having to break through different neighborhoods. So just know, with that serenity, with all of that open space, you are gonna have to be ready for some wind. But for a lot of people, that is a very minor trade-off. So as you're looking at that for yourself and you're deciding on your own pros and cons list, hopefully this was somewhat helpful. If you have any questions at all about Kuna, Idaho, moving up here to the area, all of my information is down below. If there's a way that I can help, I would absolutely love to. But until then, watch one of these videos that's popping up, and I'll see you all on the next one.